Cheers. Good way to start.
Hello and welcome to the Moon Underwater. I'm Kelly Daniels.
And I'm Steve Jones, and I'm really fucking tired.
You bastard. We were going to pretend that we weren't tired. Both of us had long days today, and you've been traveling, and you're a traveling fool. You're about to go to India.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
I'm pretty pumped.
There is quite a lag between when we record this and when it shows up.
This will be out 8 months from now. I'll be like, it's June. I went to India in October, November.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And
we have some adventures to talk about today.
We do.
Do you like that segue?
Yeah, nice. Well, before we get to our subject, which is Robert Stone, a couple of short stories by Robert Stone, who is really like the next generation of Ernest Hemingway type of author. Did you feel like there was definitely an influence there?
I did. I have so many questions.
All right.
But we got to start out with this other thing, though.
So last time when we recorded the Hemingway, there's a couple of really cool guys across the bar.
Yeah.
They were eyeing us.
They were eyeballing us.
Sending drinks over.
I thought maybe they were trying to get into a fight or something.
Yeah.
I was
they
like,
look tough.
He fights meaner. You should fight him.
They look tough.
Yeah.
But they were interested in the topic, and they sent us over a little note that recommended a YouTube clip, YouTube thing of basically it was this Australian puppet.
It was an Australian
Muppet who gave a 3-minute history of Ernest Hemingway's life.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was. So, all right, how do you feel about Muppets in general? Ventriloquism, as it were.
Well, I don't know about ventriloquism where the Muppet is on the guy's leg, like a ventrilo. I don't like that.
This wasn't.
But I like
was like a Muppet.
I like the Muppet in the Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock and all that.
This was kind of having a go at some of that too. It felt
I like it.
I thought it was funny.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I
would agree.
I was for it.
And I thought it was it was an interesting way to frame Ernest Hemingway. It was the life of Ernest Hemingway in 3 minutes or less. Like that, right? And
he basically married women. The first woman he was going to marry cheated on him, dumped him for for somebody in the army. And weirdly enough, maybe not weird at all, but I happen to have read her breakup letter. The actual breakup letter.
So you knew about that part.
I did, and it exists in Oak Park, Illinois.
Oh.
Where there's an Ernest Hemingway. Yeah.
I'm going to give Oak Park a dig.
There's an Ernest Hemingway museum there, and his childhood home, where his mother dressed him up like a girl when he was little because she thought
Did you ever see the PBS series?
No.
That's pretty good.
I hear it is good. I've heard about it.
Talks about that.
So, but the Ernest Hemingway, they have the actual letter, and it is just so harsh. She goes, "I need a man, not a boy," and like that kind of stuff. And he goes, "Oh, this." You keep talking about this writing, but you'll never make it kind of stuff.
You'll never be famous.
And you get the feeling like he got famous just to spite her. And then every woman after that, he cheated on and dumped, and each one was richer than the last.
Nice.
And
good for him.
Yeah.
Wait. No, maybe not.
Whatever. You know, he had a wild life, and then he got mentally ill and alcoholic and killed himself.
Yeah.
That was kind of it.
So the Randy Feltface thing.
That's his name, Randy Feltface.
Yep. We'll bring that. I liked there was you had like the person who was doing the puppeting, the puppeteer, I guess, and they were talking and making him talk, and they were talking really fast, and you would obviously have to take a breath, and so they inserted these pauses where it would go. Like he was, taking a big deep breath to continue.
Yeah. That was funny.
It was funny
because they're trying to get in 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes,
so you have to.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yep.
So thanks for the rec to those guys.
Yeah, and for those guys, I would recommend the 2009 movie, The Muppets, which is the Jason Segel remake.
Is that the best one?
Fucking amazing.
I used to just like The Muppet Show.
Wait, yeah, but Amy Adams is in this one.
Yeah.
And as I tell my wife, I could watch her watch paint dry.
2009 Muppets. I'll have to check that one out.
2010. It's fun. Yeah. It's doesn't take itself too seriously, as you might imagine.
I guess not.
All right. We are multi-talented here today.
So that is the look
shout
back,
out to the guys.
The shout out to the guys, and
it was good.
Connecting to the previous.
And if you have more stuff like that you would like us to talk about, the lads at the Moon Underwater Pubcast.
That's right. I'm actually going to write a script for us to tell people to leave reviews and tell a friend and things like that.
So we should cut this part out so that they don't know that that's what we're doing.
No, we should definitely start doing that a little more because we've been at this for about a year now.
Yeah.
And so
slowly growing,
and maybe without even trying.
Right.
Now we might start
We don't
trying.
even try, bro. That's how cool we are.
We may get an assistant, a marketing assistant kind of person, and then
there could be 3 of us at a meeting. No. Yeah. No, that's not possible.
We could just pour all the criticism on her though, and then
that's true.
You will have risen up.
Have you not noticed? I am thinner. I'm not funnier, but I am thinner.
Yeah, you are. All that running.
I know.
I think next time, too much running. You're not. It's not enough devotion to
running
to the show.
Yeah, that's what a waste of time.
There's I know somebody. This is a friend of a friend thing, but there's a very Christian couple. We're not supposed to talk about politics and religion, but this is relationship stuff.
Okay.
And the background is that there are certain kind of Christian where the guy is in charge and the woman obeys. And she was into doing marathons, and he said, "No, you can't do that anymore. It's taking too much time away from the family." And so she goes, "Okay."
And then she divorced him.
No, this is one of those. She's a good wife.
Wow.
She does what she says.
There was a joke in there. So like every marriage or so yeah.
Anyway, that's not my experience with life.
No.
But,
no. And that's crazy.
Yeah, it happens. So today we're going to talk about Robert Stone. And he is... there's a lot of 70s counterculture vibe in his writing and his characters.
My first question, when do these take place? It's not abundantly clear. I want... If I was a writer...
80s or 90s, I think.
Okay.
This one. These stories, I think.
If I'm a writer... So now you see, I'm now like the art critic from the Game of Catch. I'd start out the newspaper read January 28th, 2005, and it'd be oh, that's when we are.
Yeah.
Like that, because there was some.
So Robert Stone's first famous novel was called Dog Soldiers, or is called Dog Soldiers, and it's a Vietnam novel.
I like that you corrected yourself because I would have asked, well, what's it called now?
It's right after Vietnam, and it's like a vet, and they are into heroin dealing, and there's all this drug stuff.
A lot of drug stuff in these.
A lot of drug stuff in these, and I think Robert Stone was a bit of a drinker himself. That's what the
checks
rumor,
out. I mean,
the rumor had
the only author I know is one that I drink with regularly.
Well,
cheers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know. I already slurped down my.
And your beer's gone.
All right, let's not spill on the equipment.
Oh, but let's make sure that you're getting nothing but head in that beer. Can I fix
this? Is really good radio here.
It is, but I'm now past the age where I can do more than one thing at a time. So I can either pour a beer and talk.
Oh yeah,
but I can't.
Nobody can multitask. They've done studies that all it is you do multiple things shitty.
I mean, But
you were just talented enough to where you could, doing 2 things poorly, were still okay.
Yeah.
But now doing 2 things poorly, they're so bad that you got to
typing a password and trying to talk at the same time. I used to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, not me.
I can't do that.
I don't. Yeah. I can't remember my passwords. There's that joke. It was the thing about. Hey, one of those scammy things. We know the passwords of your, a phishing scam. We know the passwords. Oh, really? Please tell me.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate
it.
So,
which story
do you want to
start
with? I assumed one of them you were going to like more than the other.
Okay, it's true.
And I would say I probably enjoyed reading one of them.
I thought we were only going to read one.
Yeah.
I thought it was pick between these 2.
We could have done that.
Yeah, but I read the other one.
Yeah.
No, they weren't bad.
Yeah.
And I actually had to read them.
Yeah, I know.
There was no audio.
There's no audio because the book isn't big enough.
Yeah.
It comes from a book called Bear and His Daughter.
Which I did not read that one yet.
No,
like the actual.
It's a good one. The whole book is quite good. They're longish
I'm already going to
stories.
disagree with that.
What?
That they're all quite good.
Oh, you don't like
not.
one of them?
One of these two I did not care for.
Oh, well, you're wrong. You've been wrong in the past. So, should we start with that one then, or do you want?
Well, you tell me which one you want to start with, and I'll tell you if it's when we're done.
Oh
talking
no,
about
I know which one you don't like. It's the one "Porque no tiene, porque le falta."
Yeah.
Is that? Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Porque le falta, porque no tiene.
Porque no tiene, porque le falta.
Le falta. Do you know? So where is that from?
Well, it's from the song La Cucaracha.
La cucaracha.
Yeah.
Ya no tiene caminar.
Right. He doesn't
it's
have
not-
to walk anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's about that. I don't know why it's called that.
Where do we start? We start at the beginning.
Okay, so
Should we start with our characters?
it is about a poet. Now, this is there's a character named Fletch.
Yep.
No relation to the Chevy Chase character.
Unfortunately, I would have liked that a lot better.
You would have.
Yeah.
You just imagine that it's Chevy Chase as the guy, which kind of works.
Beatles' White Album on CD. That's
Yeah.
from Fletch, right?
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
remember
there's
that
Fletch
one.
lines, yeah.
Okay. So he is a poet. He's a writer, and he's in Mexico. And it starts off with him in a hammock,
Yeah.
and the house cleaner lady or the landlady is screaming about scorpions.
Escorpiones.
Escorpiones. And she's deadly afraid of scorpions in the beachy area, like
Right.
the grass between their house and the sea.
And the kids are playing there, and she's freaking out.
Yeah, and she's lived her whole life there and had never actually encountered a scorpion.
True.
But she's afraid of them.
Well, I mean, why
So-
wouldn't you be afraid of them?
So
you know?
that's the theme of the story is
Oh.
fear. So, and then we have Fletch, who is just scared. He's he's lacking confidence, you might say, and his wife is like, "Hey, the guys." Wait, go ahead.
He's scared.
He is scared.
I was going to go with drunk.
He's drunk too, but he's
And high.
So he's and paranoid. So he's drinking from a rum from a thermos.
Yeah. Rum and Coke.
And he feels cold.
Yep.
And his wife is like, "Hey, the guys are coming to take you to the volcano."
Yeah.
And the guys are Fincer and Willie Wings.
Right. And he's like,
He's
I'm
like, "No,
not
I don't
going
wanna
to
go."
that stupid volcano.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
And she goes, "I bet you will."
Yeah.
And then the guys come, and they basically just peer pressure bully him.
But hardly. They're
And-
like,
yeah.
oh, come on. You said you'd go. He's like, fine, I'll go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I'm saying he's scared. He's scared of them. He can't say no
Okay.
to the guys.
I had thoughts on them, but we'll talk about them shortly.
Let's find them.
Well, so he's already, before we meet Fencer, he's already kind of annoyed with him because he's got a cowboy way of talking that his wife has picked up and everybody else around him has sort of picked up, and he's annoyed by that.
Yeah.
And Willie Wings is an obnoxious little man.
There's one other thing I want to kind of set up before we get into the guys coming and picking him up.
All right.
His wife and his two kids had both gotten the plague.
Right. A
And
local dysentery.
A local dysentery, and they almost died. They wasted away into almost like skeletons, and
Right.
then they recovered.
Right.
And then they've kind of like recovered back into health. And now they're having a great time. He didn't get sick.
Right.
So the theme is kind of rebirth.
Okay.
These are, everybody in his family has essentially kind of been reborn. And they seem very comfortable with themselves. The kids aren't afraid of the scorpions. The wife is like doing whatever. And he is just really not comfortable in his own skin. He's like sipping on this rum, not like a party thing, but
No,
like he's
like
sipping a bottle
day
or
drinking,
something.
yeah.
Day drinking, but also just like, like a child, drinks its bottle.
Right, because we day drink. Not every day, but...
we do here because it's official work. I mean, we have to do it.
Clearly.
And so these are the themes are kind of fear, but also this idea of death and rebirth. And so Fletch says he's going to refuse to go to the volcano, and then the guys show up. And this is why I like it. I just think the writing is so terrific. Yeah. So Willie Wings doesn't like him because he's literary.
Right. And he keeps reminding him of that.
And also the idea of change is, I'm going to read a little bit. The changing color of the sea made him uneasy. In the past months, he had developed an odd passion for constancy. He liked things to say the same as they were. So if you do tarot cards or whatever, if you draw death, it doesn't mean you're going to die. Like some freaky, witchy woman who did my tarot cards one day when I was in my 20s told me.
Did she tell you were going to die?
No.
Oh.
She said it's
She would have been
changed.
right.
She said, I am going to die eventually.
You're right. Yeah.
That one that's a good prediction to make.
Yeah, it is. Oh, you're going to die.
Yeah. Also, the people that are good predictors, they'll go, you're going to get sick, but there's no time limit on it.
No, of course not.
And so your crops are going to fail. But
all of these things are eventually true.
25 years. And they're like, see?
I told
Got
you.
it.
I knew it.
My predictions are 100%.
Yeah.
So he's anyway. It's about death as change and death as rebirth into something new. So this is the kind of level that this story's working on.
So you're going full English professor on this.
Oh, this is an English professor story.
I mean, it really
is. The guy's a poet. Once your main character is a poet, the story is saying, I'm an English professor story. Because normal people don't read stories about poets, do they?
I know.
Have you ever read a story about a poet?
Thank God, no.
You have now?
Oh, sorry, Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sarah? Wait, you never read a story about Sarah, though.
That's true.
You like Sarah, but you
Yeah.
didn't want to. You don't want your stories to be about poets.
No.
All right. So, it's good. You're like my undergraduate students.
Yeah, or worse.
Yeah. I can teach you here. I can teach you why you should like this. The thing you don't like. That's what English professors do.
I have my own take. By the way, can I throw out there, too, that you did prep me that this was some allegory for something else.
Yeah.
And
even beyond that, I said it was an allegory for the creative process.
Yes.
So it's about creation. About the artist's mania for creation.
Okay.
And also about the kind of crisis of self-confidence that you can have when you're a poet.
All right.
Or whatever. So the two guys show up, and this is why I like it, is because I love these characters. They're over the top. They are what literary scholars call grotesques.
Okay.
Which are, a lot of times they talk about that with Flannery O'Connor's characters. They're just larger. They're cartoon characters. They're just over the top.
Willie Wings had a parrot with him in a cage.
He was trying to teach it
to sit on his shoulder.
But it wouldn't, so he just carried the cage around.
Right.
And then he would shake the cage and then talk to the parrot.
Yeah. Hey, say this. Yeah.
And his name was, what was his name again?
Oh, gosh.
We need his name.
Yeah. It's right when he first shows up.
It's all through.
I thought they just called him kind of the bird.
No, Godfrey.
Godfrey.
His name's Godfrey.
Yeah.
Okay, here is how these characters are described, and I love it so much. Fencer and Willie Wings got out and walked toward them. Fencer was wearing his white duck pirate pants.
I love that.
And his Pima Indian necklace with a Maltese cross soldered to the chain. He wore his yellow hair like General Custer.
I had to look up a picture of General Custer, and I was like,
I see that guy.
Got it.
Especially, you're a guy who's been to Mexico, right?
Yeah.
You can see that American guy in Mexico who's been there for years.
Yeah.
These are the American expats who are completely drugged out.
Yeah.
And Willie Wings is the sidekick. Willie Wings shuffled along beside him carrying a parrot in a cage. Breathless from the morning's methadone, he was addressing the bird.
Which I had to look up what methadone was.
It's like meth.
Meth.
Yeah. He was addressing the bird. His face and the bald crown of his head were red and sweaty. Yeah. Look at Fletch, Godfrey. Willie Wings enjoined the parrot. You see Fletch over there?
Yeah.
I love it. And then Fletch is like intimidated by these guys, and he's
annoyed with them.
But they make him sit in the back of the car, and it seems like he thinks they're going to take him up to the volcano and kill him.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah, and he just gets into it. Can you say Fletch? Willie Wings asked the parrot.
And he didn't do it.
Say, come see the volcano, Fletch. And then, Fletch, what's his name? Fletch tries to get out of it.
Yeah.
And Willie Wings is horrified. He's like, what is this? Not doing the thing that the guys said they were going to do.
That's not literary.
Yeah. He's like, Godfrey's literary. That's what his trouble is. I'm not saying he's verbal, but he's literary.
He's literary.
He's like Fletch. And so he's always talking about being literary as this problem.
Right.
And then eventually he gets to this idea of art. And the idea of art comes later when he starts talking about the guy that he spied on in the motel room.
We gotta wait. But that's a little foreshadowing right here because we can't get to that yet.
All right. Let me turn it over to you. Why don't you kind of summarize? So they basically pick him up. He tries to get out of it, but he is too wimpy. They make him get in the car, and then they just start driving away.
Yeah. And while that's happening, Willie Wings is downing yet more speed, right?
Yeah, and they're drinking beers.
They're drinking beers, and then they're smoking more joints in the car.
Smoking joints.
Because
doing speed.
Who was it? Fencer is the only person in Mexico that he knows that can roll a joint while he's driving.
Yeah. It's just a pretty good trick.
Yeah.
And you could see him doing that, looking like he does.
Right. Sort of. I mean, there's pirate.
And then we were introduced to somebody named Sinister Pancho Pillow.
Yeah. The name. Sinister Pancho Pillow.
Yeah.
And they're winding up through sort of the jungle towns, and Fletch is sort of sinking lower and lower into the back seat.
Yeah,
trying to drink more, trying to he's
drinking, and Willie Wings kind of catches him drinking. He's like, "Look what he's doing! He's drinking. He's scared." And it's weird that he's judgmental about Fletch's drinking. When
he's all
he's speeded out,
right,
and smoking pot and also drinking beer.
Right.
So anyway,
there's he gets to the point where Fletch gets to the point where he is, basically on the floor in the back seat of the car.
Yeah, and he has no will. I could read a little bit. He keeps saying he won't do things, but he does what they tell him to do.
Right. So
Fletch took his tokes one after another, feeling that it was somehow against his will. It occurred to him that he did not have to go with Fencer and Willie Wings to the volcano, but that he was very high.
Right.
So,
and he wants to get out.
He does.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, we're going to get some peanuts." And then, oh, no, they had to speed away because Sinister Pancho Pillow.
They see him and they run away from him. If he catches them,
he might eat him.
Yeah.
That's what.
And they call him Diablo.
Right.
Oh, no, somebody in the town
called them or said it to them.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Diablo. Someone shouted.
Devil, for those of you that don't speak Spanish.
That's because Willie Wings does his fingers join to suggest the Trinity dispensed papal benedictions. So he's doing that to the people,
right,
and then Fencer is salaming to them.
Right.
And the people don't like him. They talk about tarot cards later, so there's this kind of like occult thing going on.
You know what occurred to me when I was reading it and I saw the word Diablo?
What?
It's the same thing that occurs to me every time I see that or hear that word, is that was such a great car.
The Diablo.
The Lamborghini Diablo. You know what Lamborghini generally named their cars after? Spanish fighting bulls.
Oh.
And so there was a gigantic bull named Diablo.
Diablo.
Which checks out.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
So I thought that immediately. I'm like, oh, hey, what a great car.
Well, and even another connection. There's cars in this story. They're in a car.
49 Buick. That's why I'm like, what the fuck year are we in? Like, this is not helpful.
Well, I'm sorry that it confused you.
It was very
Steve.
confusing.
Sometimes literature takes a little work. And
Yeah,
not everything can be easy in life.
We
need to learn these lessons.
I disagree. I want it to all be easy.
Yes. I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do, buddy.
Yeah.
You're the guy that... Have we said this on the pod, that if we do get to the apocalypse, you're just going to off yourself? You're not going to wander around trying to survive?
Hell no, I'm out.
Yeah.
No.
I like your conviction on that.
Yeah.
I like that you have a plan.
No, I made it that far.
Yeah.
No,
True.
I don't need the rest of this.
It's true. We don't have all that much time left, so
I know.
It's like, why, if it's going to suck?
Yeah, it's been good to this point, you know, like, I know. Anyway.
So Willie Wings, I have my notes here, and I don't know. Willie Wings becomes this weird little pill-popping, like, soothsayer. He's like dropping all this like weird kind of wisdom.
Didn't even follow it as being wisdomy, and maybe
wisdom from the mouth of fools, But he's always telling him about poet. Listen, fencer, how can he be a poet? He don't live the conscious life.
Yeah.
He lives unawares. You reckon there's truth in that? Fencer asked. No, Fletch said. I live the conscious life.
Is he fencer in your book, or is he fences sometimes?
What do you mean?
Well, I think that there was some autocorrection in the Kindle version where he's being referred to as fences.
No, it's fencer.
All right.
Yeah.
About twice I saw that. I'm like, really? Did nobody proofread
No,
this?
fencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know how these things go when it comes to Kindle.
I don't.
You don't?
Not really.
Oh, yeah, you don't read.
No.
You did this time. Nice job.
I know.
And
twice.
you were tortured.
I was not
you were
rewarded for the read on this one.
Okay.
But I had some thoughts on it, though.
We'll keep going.
All right.
You hear that, fencer? Willie Wing shouted. You hear what he said? And
Fencer doesn't care, right? For the most part. So they finally get up to the volcano, well, at least to where they're going to have to start walking up.
Yeah.
He gets out with his thermos, and he just lets...
Before we get there is when Willie Wings gives the whole speech about the hotel.
Yeah. We should...
This is important. Do you have thoughts on his...
Well, he worked in a hotel in Chattanooga, which is kind of hilarious because I was just literally flying through Chattanooga last week. And when I say flying through, it was in a car. And between Atlanta and eastern Iowa, I averaged 78 miles an hour with 2 stops. That should give you an idea about how fast I drove.
Yeah.
And he worked he said he was a bellhop that worked in an 8-story hotel in Chattanooga. And that it was a crazy place because you could see various things because there was ways you could see into all of the rooms.
Yeah. Don't you, that I saw lots of shit to appeal to the prurient interest.
I had to look that word up.
I saw every variety of sexuality known to the Eastern Masters. Dig it. In each and every room was a viewee thing. Sometimes it was a little hole. Sometimes it was more complicated, because that was in the great age of hotels. Fletch listened with groaning panic.
Yeah.
And he goes on to talk about
the craziest thing that he ever saw.
All the things he'd ever seen. So, he sighed, and a drawling self-deprecation came into his voice. So while you could say the one thing he saw that was that was more intense than anything was this one guy by himself.
Right.
So while you could say it was just a cat playing with himself, he leaned his head on the seat as though overcome. But let me tell you, he said softly, let me tell you, buddies.
Yeah.
He really played with himself.
I did. I was laughing when I read that. Because my brain was already at work. I'm like.
So what? Now, I told you, this is a story about the creative process. What is the creative process? A dude playing with himself, man. That is it. That's what a poet does. That's what a writer.
I like that we've made it to this point, and we've said poet 50 times. Well, maybe you
Not
have
50.
Okay, 10.
I think we.
And we have not followed up with didn't even know it.
Oh, that is good of us.
I know.
Now we.
You're welcome, world.
We blew that nice.
No, I just pointed it out that we hadn't done it. It's fine. Yeah.
So he is talking about what it takes to be a real artist. And in the tradition of Shakespeare and others, and also Cervantes with Don Quixote.
Just a dude playing with himself.
The idiot, the fool, is the one that has the most wisdom, and that's Willie Wings. And he is sort of giving Fletch the lesson on what it takes to be a great artist. And it's not being literary. It's living in full consciousness. And the difference between that is, I don't know. But
no, but he just then, shortly thereafter, he does live in full consciousness. He's sort of.
So now, what happens next is he escapes when they get up to the top of the.
For whatever reason, he's decided.
They're going to kill him.
Yeah. Well, does he? He just doesn't really want to be there. And
it's kind of hard to understand what they're going to do at the volcano.
They were going to kill him.
I don't think so.
Right.
I just don't think it's that kind of a story.
So
it's more just paranoid drug silliness.
We lose them, and he walks down the mountain, right?
So he escapes. He throws the thermos at Willie Wings' face.
Hits him in the face.
And then runs down the mountain. It's just this crazy, just falling down the shale. And then he starts getting this, he starts feeling good about himself.
Yeah.
And a storm comes. And then he thinks that he's controlling the storm. He's standing on the side of the mountain.
He's in full control.
And he's using his hands to kind of dictate where the lightning is going.
Yep.
That's the artist thing. That's when you're the poet, you create the world. You create everything.
Okay.
You have full control. You have full power. And that's his rebirth after kind of escaping, death on the volcano, and he's talking about human sacrifice and all this kind of pagan-y stuff, and the Mayans would sacrifice humans and stuff like that. And so he all of a sudden has this religious experience of reawakening.
Okay. My read was, well, it's not correct, obviously, but I kind of thought of Willie Wings and Fencer as being sort of in his head. I mean, they were real, but they're what they were doing, and they were things that were keeping him from being creative.
Yeah. Okay, let's take it realistically for a second. You're a poet. You moved to Mexico.
Yeah.
You want to write some poems. The two
but instead
local
you write these short stories.
The two local expatriate drug heads are hanging out with you every day.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get a lot of good poetry done when you're getting high and drunk every day with these two kind of degenerates?
No. Well.
So I feel in some way he needs to it's a sobriety story.
Cut them loose.
Yeah, you can't be hanging out with those guys.
And that's what I was thinking is you have to get rid of them.
Yeah.
They are stifling your creativity.
Totally.
Get rid of them. And once he does, everything is free flowing. And
he starts creating.
That's the part that was I thought was good.
And then he feels all kind of full, confident and good, and the fear is gone. And then he runs down.
That's what made me uncomfortable. Is I think the fear. I didn't It was not abundantly clear, which you've pointed out. I didn't realize why the scorpions were important.
Panicking.
Yeah.
While Willie Wings is calling him out. That's what he's really afraid of. He's really afraid of being called out you're not a real poet.
Right.
That's what every writer is afraid of.
Oh.
So, The Shining. It's a little bit of a jump.
A little?
You've seen The Shining. What's the great moment? The great moment of Jack Nicholson's character as the writer. The most terrifying moment to me is when his wife finally looks at what he's been writing the
All
whole time.
work and no play make Jack a dull boy.
Every sentence is the same sentence over and over for hundreds of pages. That's the fear of being a writer, is everything you're writing is just complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And so this is a story that's kind of in a really kind of artsy and allegorical and annoying to certain people, I'm sure, way. But if you're a writer, I think you get it, because you're like, oh yeah, these guys, it's a crisis of confidence, and getting rid of those guys, escaping them, he starts feeling it. And then he runs down into the town, and then he finally meets Sinister Pancho Pillo and La Beatrix.
Yeah. And he's not so bad. He's not going to eat him.
No.
But he's also...
But he did put one of them in the trunk of his car, and they drove him to, like...
One of the two guys.
Yeah,
they were the ones that were scared of him.
Yeah.
That was less... That spoke way less to me than anything else.
The whole Pancho Pillo?
Yeah,
I know.
It was
I feel
really
like the story
he just wasn't afraid at that point.
I feel like the story was a little long when he got into the town.
We're almost through this picture, and we have not finished with this story.
I know. We're getting there.
To talk about the better story. Oh. Did I say that out loud?
I'm just wondering, Willie Wings just has so many great lines. But we'll keep going. Wait, did you say we need another picture?
No.
Another picture it is. Yeah. So he gets there, and there's all this kind of ritual stuff, and I don't know. We'll.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like it dragged at the end, where, he stands up to Pancho Pillo. He kind of runs out.
Yeah, he
runs
runs away.
Nope, I'm not doing what you want me to do. Right? Like,
I
he's
like
gonna do it his way.
how La Beatrix talks, though, because she talks about. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know. The story is long.
Yeah. See, I've now poisoned the story in your head.
No, I did think that it kind of when he gets away from Willie Wings and Fletch,
That's
does
kind of
go
the
on
end of the
for
story.
a little while.
Yeah.
But he is. I like how La Beatriz, not Trix.
Yeah.
I just want to read a little bit of. I want to read a little bit of. That fencer, La Beatriz said with distaste. That Wheelie Wings.
Wheelie
Wings.
And she shakes her fingers in his face like this.
Yeah. She flung her hand before Fletch's face as though she were trying to shake something off her fingers.
Yeah. And should we fast forward to the end? Let's fast forward. Spoiler alert. He goes back home.
Yeah, he finally gets home. And he sees Willie Wings in a hammock.
Passed out.
He's kind of passed out, but he just sort of sees him there. And then he sneaks in and he hears Fencer and his wife.
Yeah.
And they're in bed together naked.
Yeah.
And then
what do you suppose they were doing?
And then he hides on, I think they start making love. And he hides on the floor and watches them and then very slowly kind of sneaks out.
He sneaks out.
And then and he's not bothered by it.
No.
He's like good with it. So, what does that say about being an artist?
I don't know.
It says you need to be able to fully imagine and not avert your eyes from the thing that most horrifies you.
Oh.
Sat there patiently and watched.
And hated that guy.
This guy that he hates.
Yeah.
Seducing and making love to his wife. And then he comes back to Willie Wings, who he was afraid of before and who is threatening him all the time.
Now he seems pretty harmless.
He's fine with him.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey... he's like, I went up there, didn't I? And Willie Wings like, yeah, not all the way, but you went up the mountain. Right, Fletch said. I went up. He leaned his head back to look at Willie. I went up, and you should have been there to see me coming down, man. because that was something else.
Yeah.
Willie Wings watched him for a little while. Fletch, babe, he said, I had you wrong, brother. You really are a poet. So, it ends.
Right.
Like he starts off, he's not there. At the end, he is there. That's a short story.
All right.
That's a story.
4 out of 10 would not repeat.
All right.
Yep.
I get it.
Now the second one.
You're doing a good job of rating yourself as a reader. But it's good. It's good for me to.
Yeah.
It's like a golf handicap or something, you know. It's I need to be dragged down a bit.
Yeah.
So, Under the Piton.
The Piton.
Is a this story appeared in the New Yorker.
Yeah.
Not originally, maybe originally, but it's about some. I can sum it all up.
Yeah.
One sentence.
Do it.
Don't get high on your own supply if you're a drug smuggler.
So that is an apt. I mean, except the question that I have is what exactly. So there's a group of people who have chartered a sailboat, and they're smuggling drugs in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Okay. So
who are the characters? Should we do a character rundown?
Let's do the character rundown. So we have Freycinet, which is the Frenchman. We have Blessington.
Yeah.
We
Main
have
character.
Marie.
Blessington is an Irish
Yep.
man, and they all know each other from some restaurant that they were working in.
Okay.
And Gillian.
I'm going with Jillian.
Gillian.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
the
with
American.
a G, but
So there's 2 Frenchies, 1 Irishman, and an American, and they were all just working in a restaurant, a cafe together, and they decide to make a bunch of money. And they each pitch in $20,000.
we should make a bunch of money. That would be a good idea. Not
2 of us?
Not drug smuggling, but we should. Like I like the way that the story is being told because they're sitting around. They're like, you know what we should do?
Make a bunch of money.
We should make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You and I should do that.
We should do that.
Totally.
All right.
All right, let's get out of here.
Let's talk about it.
Oh, wait, no.
No, in our next meeting.
Okay, yeah.
We'll
How are we
talk
going to make a bunch of money?
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah, we have.
It's a good idea.
We have a season to
We do.
go through, but we'll do it.
Okay, so they're they decide they're going to make a bunch of money, and in order to do it, it's $20,000 each, and everybody goes to their
They're going
various
to rent
sources
a sailboat and then buy a bunch of drugs
from the baddies on St. Vincent.
What are they called? The Vincentians?
Yes.
And
I think that's sort of rude to the saint part.
Yeah, I think so.
Saint Vincentian seems like, but that's how
it's sacrilegious.
Told. Yeah.
So these guys, and we get it through flashback.
We do.
Because they're basically in the boat at the very beginning, and they almost get run over by a barge that's being towed by a tug.
Right.
And they're all really high on drugs.
On various things. That's why I was going to ask you when you said don't get high on your own supply, what exactly was their supply?
Coke.
Right. Meth.
Meth and speed.
Oh.
I think it was the same thing. And pot, ganja, and they're drinking like straight. What is Demerol? It's Demerov. It's some alcohol. It's just drinking some kind of like
booze,
brandy or something.
Yeah.
Drinking. So they're really high. They're not
loaded up.
They're not doing that great. Blessington is driving. I know it's not called that. He's piloting.
Whoa.
Something.
I don't know. Steering?
Yeah. He's steering the boat.
Yeah.
And he almost gets run over by this barge that's being towed. And then the Frenchman comes up who's super annoying.
Yep.
And I love how his dialogue is done. He's like, what is your problem? You can just hear the accent. And he's high, too. And
Paranoid.
Paranoid as hell.
Yeah.
And then we flash back to the drug deal, and these guys are just really scary, big, scary dudes.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Take it.
Well, and Jillian decides that, maybe she wants to have a go with one of them.
So Jillian
A roll in the proverbial hay.
Jillian is from Texas. She's the one American. They all hate her, but she is like in it for the adventure.
Yes.
And she decides she wants to sleep with one of the drug dealers, and it's a really kind of a grotesque and scary situation.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you doing? It's bad enough that we have to like make this purchase from these guys. Now you're screwing one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like...
his name was Liam.
Yeah, Liam is the Irish guy. It's
no.
Blessington.
Oh, I thought it was...
Nah, man. It's... his name is...
Doug. I'm going to go with Doug.
No, it's not Doug.
I'm just making it up.
He has a name. Anyway, whatever.
Nobody's going to know if they didn't...
He has a name.
read it.
He has a name. So, like Gavin or something like that.
That's even cooler than Doug.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
So
we're cruising.
And so as we're out on the cruise, it's sort of like Blessington, who's mildly irritated with Jillian, who is kind of very American and Texan. And she, at one point, I believe, is quoted as saying about the Frenchman, he's an asshole.
Yeah, the boat is called Sans Regret.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And Blessington hated the name.
Yeah, he said it just didn't bode well. I love how Blessington thinks of Freycinet. Freycinet made an unpleasant, ratty face.
Yeah.
He was ugly as cat shit, Blessington thought.
I don't know why cat shit's uglier than any other kind, but it's pretty ugly.
Yeah. And so there he is volatile, and so Freycinet is hanging out on the deck, and the two women are down below, and they're basically going toward the piton.
But they're tacking into the wind, and it's taking forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Freycinet refused to go below. His presence was so unpleasant that Blessington felt like weeping, knocking him unconscious, throwing him overboard, or jumping over himself. I love that line because there are some people that you're just being around them.
Yes.
Is that unpleasant?
Oh, God, yes.
And but he starts liking Jillian.
He does.
Because she stands up to them.
And she doesn't give a shit.
She doesn't. And Blessington is, like Fletch, is scared. He's scared the whole time.
Yeah, well, he keeps thinking...
He's like, I'm a chef, not a...
And he keeps bringing up that we're all going to die.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, whatever.
She's like, well, then at least it was an adventure, right? Like, okay. I mean, it's better than whatever it is we were doing.
Yeah.
You know? And so they do finally end up reaching St. Lucia, and then they decide that they need to put the anchor down, and they need to tie
go
off
for a
somewhere
swim.
And go for a swim. Well, and so they go out. It seemed like a couple miles.
Wait, I want to get before we go here. I want to get a little bit of wisdom from the drug dealers, the Vincentian drug dealers. See if I can find his name. So Jillian is telling us about Nigel. His name was Nigel.
Nigel.
You know what Nigel told me back in Canouan? No, Blessington said. He told me not to worry about understanding things. He said understanding was weak and lame. He said you got to overstand things.
You got to overstand things.
You got to overstand it. Overstand it, right? Funny, huh? And he's like, yeah, Rasta lore.
That's we do need to, that's definitely worth the mention.
We need to start overstanding things.
Yeah.
Here on the podcast.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
overstanding the story.
That was your problem with the last story.
I didn't overstand it.
Or understand it. But
I would take either one, really.
So from now on, we're going to overstand things.
We are.
All right.
So yeah, they end up tying off. fairly far out, and of course the boat boys come out and they want to charge them for tying off, and Freycinet shows up with a gun.
He's got like an AK-47 or something, right?
Like, get the fuck out of here!
Yeah, he's overdoing it.
He is,
and they're like, "Oh, great! Now
they're gonna know,
that we're protecting something because they got a bunch of drugs on the board, right?"
But they, it's kind of obvious, but now it's more, and so they kind of decide, well, we're gonna be here for the night, so time for a swim. So people start. Jillian starts by going in, and Marie, and then Blessington wants to get away from Freycinet, right?
Yeah.
Freycinet, and he's being encouraged to get in, so he jumps in.
But he thinks something's wrong, like he's forgetting something,
right,
before he jumps in. That feeling is always right. I've noticed in life. Every time I leave in the morning to go to work, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. God damn it, I'm forgetting something.
Oh, my feeling's not. My spidey sense on that is not good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. International travel. I'm forgetting something. I'm always fucking forgetting something. Like, what kind of come on, brain.
So when I don't feel it, I'm never forgetting something when I don't feel it. But when I do feel it, I'm always forgetting something, but it never helps.
I always think I'm forgetting something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My spidey sense sucks.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah. So
you're just paranoid. But but Blessington did, and then he jumps in.
He jumps in, and then he's over kind of like,
Or maybe he gets the feeling before Freycinet jumps in. Like before, when Freycinet strips down, he's about to jump in. And then he's like, something
hold on a minute.
Doesn't seem quite right.
Right. And what was that?
And what a fucking design flaw of this particular boat.
Well, the first problem was that the boat was drifting somehow, though it was tied off.
Yeah.
Well, it was tied off.
Yeah.
But the boat boys
cut the
and then
because you could have grabbed the rope and pulled yourself up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the Freycinet, the Frenchman, is getting ready to jump in, and as he's doing it, Blessington's going, oh my God, he realized it. The ladder was not down. They were not tied off.
And it was a high, proud boat that there's no way that
the design was absurd because you couldn't climb up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all four of them are in the water, and there is no chance in hell they're getting back on that boat.
And it's far away to land.
3 or 4 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just starts swimming with Jillian, who he likes now. And
she's all cracked out. She's on all kinds of shit. She popped a pill or two before getting in the water, and
she's like, "Oh, it's cold." And she's like, and she's coughing. And at first, he's asking her, like, "Are you okay?" And then after a while, he stops asking if she's okay
because she's giggling, and she's like, "Oh, whatever."
And he's like, "Go on your back," and then she starts like choking and going, "Hey, I need help."
There's a bit of a kerfuffle with the Frenchman too.
Oh, they realize what's going on and they swim away from him. Well, first the Frenchies are on one side of the boat.
Yep.
And the other two are on the other, and then the boat just drifts away and they see each other and it's embarrassing. And then they just start swimming for it because at that point they realize
gotta go.
And then they hear Marie screaming.
Yeah.
And
she's realizing what's going on.
Oh, yeah, they're going to die.
Oh, fuck.
And so they're swimming for it. And do you want to?
Well, I guess who's swimming for it is not Marie and the Frenchman. No. It's Blessington and Jillian. And Blessington is sort of on a mission. He's like, I'm going to make it.
Well, he wants to live.
Right.
Well, because he's already was thinking he didn't want to die. He'd already kind of given up the idea of the $20,000. He just knows the whole thing.
Even though he borrowed it from his sister and his brother-in-law or whatever.
Yeah, and he was really fucked up. It was a mistake. And he starts swimming, and Jillian is starting to falter. And he's like, come on, you can do it. And then she starts singing and going kind of crazy.
I would imagine that's sort of how somebody might sound like drowning.
Yeah.
Like I felt like that was probably accurate. Somebody on drugs who's slowly going.
It was pretty horrific and seemed realistic.
But she was thrilled, which is the part that's kind of the sick part, where it's almost funny, but it's a person who is dying in front of the main character.
And eventually, she's like, hey, let me rest on you. And he's like, no.
He's like, nah, I don't think so.
We shouldn't touch each other. And he just starts kind of like slowly going farther and farther away from her. And meanwhile, the current is pushing them out farther to sea the whole time. And he finally just lets her go, and she's just singing and drowning, and he hears Maurice screaming, or maybe fantasizing it.
Yeah.
He's really tired. He finally gets out of the current.
And he's in a
riptide, and that almost kills him. And
he swims across. He just barely remembered.
Yeah.
And he
gets in.
And he hikes up into the jungle.
And he feels like he can still hear Maurice screaming now and then, and he thinks he sees somebody still like drowning, but
he doesn't remember if there's a resort that has an elephant, and they keep it out in the woods.
He hears an elephant,
and so
he thinks he's in Africa.
He's like, no, I can't. I know they keep an elephant. I can't run across an elephant at night, so I'm just going to stay here.
So he sleeps on the beach.
He does.
Until daylight.
I thought it was at least up in the woods, like in the jungle.
Oh, maybe he went up there. But in the morning,
this is the best.
Go ahead.
He's going to go to the Irish pub.
Yeah.
Which maybe we should insert this part back, where it was suggested that there was an Irish pub where they might understand him because he's Irish.
Yeah.
And instead he says, "I'm going to the Irish pub," and you're gonna read it, but so that they would overstand him there. And please enlighten us, Dr. Daniels. Do people in your class call you Dr. Daniels?
Some of them do. The ones that I
would demand it.
The ones that I intimidate. The ones that get A's.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's basically my grading method.
How many times did you call me Dr. Daniels?
Yeah.
You were the most?
Versus Professor. That's okay. And then calling me by my first name.
Oh, that's so not cool.
In the morning, when the sun rose fresh and full of promise, he set out for the Irish bar in Soufriere.
Yeah.
This is on Martinique, or no?
Yeah. It's St. Lucia, right?
St. Lucia, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they would overstand him there.
He thought that they might overstand him there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I think it was, it's a callback.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, he's an Irish guy going to an Irish bar, pub. And Ireland has bars too, by the way.
What?
Oh, they have a lot of bars. I don't know. There's a difference. Bars look more like bars, and pubs look more like pubs. Some of the places that are the best are the bars, actually. They're sort of cooler in some way, according to the locals. It's more younger. But anyway.
Maybe they're open later.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
I bet you that's true. I don't know. What does that mean? They're going to overstand him, which is dominate him. But overstanding someone in this was literally standing over them, and trying to understand something is trying to grasp reality. Overstanding something is imposing your version of reality on reality.
But he would have appreciated that, I think, in that moment.
He didn't feel very good about himself. He wanted to go somewhere where they could, tell him how to be,
right?
What to do.
Okay,
I think.
What's the English professor read of this story? What did I miss?
I don't know. I think this one's pretty straightforward. I think it's just an adventure. I think the relationship, the emotional part of it. I mean, there's just the live and die part.
Yeah.
The crime story. But I think it's a relationship story between him and Jillian.
Yeah.
Who at first he liked, but then when everybody else didn't like him, the Frenchies didn't like her, then he kind of
He went the same way.
Yeah. And then she sort of like does that thing with the drug dealer. And that probably didn't, really endear him to her but he also kind of grudgingly respected that she just wasn't like him.
Yeah.
She wasn't afraid and she was reckless. But then she was smart. She pretended like she didn't know French the whole time and then let them know.
And she did.
And then Freycinet was freaking out.
Right.
And he liked her because he didn't like the other two. He chose the wrong side early on because he's kind of a weak guy. And he ultimately didn't save her, which he couldn't have. But
no.
And I think it's a story about a guy that made a big mistake and survived it barely.
Yep.
And, kind of like gave up a lot to, get there. And then, but he did survive, and he's feeling it at the end. That's kind of the story,
I felt like this had great beginning, middle, and an end. Like that it didn't feel like it should have ended before it did. It definitely didn't need to go further than it did. That was the problem I had with Porquet, as we were referring to in our attacks.
Well, to kind of just give some evidence on that you're on the right side of history here. This one was published in the New Yorker, and the Porquet no tiene, I think, either never was published in a magazine before the book came out, or was published in a kind of less prestigious place.
Of course.
And it isn't as entertaining.
It's really not.
It's for a smaller audience, I would say.
Okay.
But I think the writing was more fun in that one because it's more adventurous and wackier.
It was wackier, like him controlling the lightning and the...
I like the wackiness. I like the weird kind of language and the kind of cartoonish characters and the grotesques, and that it wasn't really realistic. I just have a strong, I guess,
an aversion to realism.
I don't have an aversion to it. I like it, but it gets boring after a while.
Right.
It feels like it's, I mean, I live realism, and here I am reading realism. Do I?
Are you sure?
I am not sure now that I mention it.
Oh, man.
So if anybody's still with us by this time, you know what you got to do? You got to write a review.
Yeah.
Quick review. 3 words. I like it.
Yeah.
It's excellent podcast.
Click like and subscribe. Like I'm pointing to something if you're watching the video that I never
and
put up.
Yeah, for the video deal, whatever that's called, YouTube.
The YouTubes.
That's what the young people like.
The YouTubes.
The young people are gonna, and you get to see us, which is such a bonus. Yeah,
I know.
And here we are. What else can they do without? We don't ask for any money.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
But,
go to Patreon. We don't have that.
You don't see. We're not even asking for money.
No.
But we do want
you
to.
This service right now out of the goodness of our hearts.
What we want is for more people to feel the love, and the way to do that is to get more reviews, because more reviews means we start showing up on the algorithm more.
It's true.
And like I said, we're going to have a young assistant who is going to be doing our marketing and stuff.
Oh.
And when she starts doing that, her ability to get more listeners is going to be on her resume.
Yeah.
And if she fails to do that, then
it's all of your faults.
Totally.
And all of our hopes and dreams are crushed because of you people.
If 50% of the people who download this wrote a positive review, that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, and the other 50% can fuck right off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's like Elon Musk talking to his advertisers.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels so good.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I wish I had that kind of money.
Right.
You know what we should do?
Make a bunch
of money.
Yeah. Somebody said, was talking about somebody who was crazy rich, but who was sort of capitulating to something, like, and then complaining about it, like, He goes, what's the point of getting fuck you money if you're not willing to say fuck you? I mean,
that
so,
doesn't make any sense.
I'm not there.
Well,
I'm not even in fudge you money. I'm not even at look askance at the wrong person money. But
we're working on it.
Yeah.
We're just going to come up with that idea.
So
it turns out...
Just think how great we'll be if we make a lot of money.
But getting a boat full of drugs in the Caribbean is now, we've figured out now, bad idea.
No, it's a good idea if we don't do the drugs.
Chances of that happening with that many drugs, not great.
I would totally be doing the drugs. Even I don't even want to do the drugs, but they're there.
They're begging to be
also,
done.
the reason why Blessington was doing the drugs is because he just could not stand being on a boat with the Frenchie.
Right.
And he just had to keep guzzling booze and doing all that stuff.
It feels like that maybe and Mr. Stone.
Yeah.
Feels like that might be him because he was the character in both.
Yeah. I feel like he wrote a novel about yacht racing. He was into the yachting. He had a couple of novels about
that sounds
sailing.
A little snooty.
Hey, I'm gonna. This is like the bonus for the people that love us the most because here's a little story. It's very. If I've already told it, then well, hell. But I met these yacht people when I was living in Puerto Vallarta because that's like a place that the yacht people go, and they just they sail boats around the world and kind of live and try to make money where they can, and they're very boozy. And I met a group of them. They're fun to talk to, fun to drink with. And this one guy was telling this story about being on this boat race and out in Australia and having to be rescued because the boat was sinking. And I'm like, what happened? And because they all knew the story, and I was the guy that didn't. He's like, well, we ran into the Great Barrier Reef and during this race and had to be towed out. I'm like, well, how did that happen? He goes, well, it was partly the navigator's fault, partly the captain's fault, and partly the pilot's fault. Unfortunately, I was all three.
That's pretty good.
So I don't remember the guy's name, but I'm going to give him a ding because that guy was cool.
Funny.
Yeah.
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
Well, if I did, it was after maybe a second picture.
You weren't listening. You didn't care.
You got to turn that up.
I do.
That was a good time.
No, I was trying to fade it in.
I'd read more of these.
Yeah, okay. Even though you didn't like that one?
Just don't make me read one like that again.
I think you would like Bear and his daughter. Maybe you wouldn't. It's the main character's a poet. But it isn't unrealistic.
Still love you, Sarah.
It isn't unrealistic, but it's screwed up. It's screwed up.
All right.
So,
Thank you,
I don't
people.
know. And we'll read something else later. All right. Bye. See y'all.